Hey guys, thanks for joining me for another episode of Learn to Play Games. My name is Lance, and today we're going to take a look at a brand new game coming to Kickstarter called Champions of Hera. This is a brand new game from Greenbrier Games. It is a 1 to 4 player game unless you purchase the expansion, which will bump it all the way up to 6 players. It takes roughly an hour to 3 hours to play, depending upon the skill levels of the players and how many are playing the game. And it is a competitive or cooperative game, as there are 2 different modes of play in it. You have the competitive mode where it's player versus player, and each player is competing against the other players to level up and gain the most energy for their player and make it back to the dojo first in order to gain a wish, which then they will be able to choose between a couple of scenarios that will further their story arc. And then there's also cooperative mode where all the players are going to be working together to, depending upon the scenario they choose, to either defeat a corrupted champion or to save the worlds in some other fashion. So in the game, each of the players is playing a champion that is basically trying to contain the conflux and to level up and gain energy by defeating monsters and closing rifts and helping to save these different worlds that they're going to be journeying in. And then they will be working on defeating the corrupted champions, which in turn were actually originally heroes and champions of Hera originally, and have been corrupted over time and diluted or whatever and changed their minds, and now all of a sudden they are trying to destroy the worlds and trying to destroy the dojo, which is the center point for all of our champions. So in this video, I'm going to take you guys through a basic overview of the game to show you guys some of the unique features of this game and some of the different things. Now, I'm going to also be doing a full gameplay video so you guys can see the game in action and you'll get to see how the game progresses as time goes on. Now, a couple things to keep in mind is that these are all prototypes, and a lot of these things are early prototypes. So you're going to see some images that are up on the Kickstarter that are going to be new and updated. The components already from the prototypers are actually pretty good, and some of the new artwork that I've seen is really, really good. So don't pay attention to a lot of that as much, because they're going to be updating a lot of that, and a lot of the mechanics and things are going to shift just a little bit as far as the way that the components are going to interact. So I'll explain that more as I do some of the overview video, but just kind of keep that in mind as we go through this. Other than that, I've had a chance to play this game a number of times already with the playtesting version or prototype version, and I've had a really good time with it. It's very unique. It's an interesting game. I love the card mechanics and how they work with the players, as you're going to be playing cards and they're double-sided. And so when you play the card, it's going to you're going to be playing the top part of that card, and then it's going to go out onto the table into a specific area. And then in later turns, you'll be able to use that card again from the table, but this time it's going to interact with the bottom effects. So you're going to have to kind of weigh out when to play cards and to get them on the table so that you can use them later on for their effects to come off the table, which then you'll gain them back into your hand. So you're going to be continually rotating these cards that you gain. And then you're going, like I said, you're going to be working on defeating monsters and closing rifts to gain that energy that you'll need to start leveling up. And when you hit certain thresholds, then you'll be able to upgrade your cards by choosing new cards from your hero to add to your current hands, which will give you new and more abilities. And then each hero is going to work a little bit differently, as each hero has different gauges and things that they'll be able to use and different mechanics. So, for example, one hero really focuses on fear and terror. So every time she takes wounds, she becomes stronger and has more abilities. And then you have another character called Leaf, who is basically like an adult Groot. And he just goes around smashing stuff, and as he gains his momentum, he becomes more powerful and can use that for different things. And each character works a little bit differently and has their own strengths and weaknesses. So that is interesting as well, as none of the characters are exactly the same. So no matter how many times you've played, you get to play different characters each time so that the game is still fresh. And there's plenty of different add-on cards and things like that that's going to keep things rotating and modular as well, so that each game that you play is going to give you a different experience. So let's go ahead and head to the table, and I'll show you guys what this is all about. Alright guys, so first off we have the board here that makes up the Champions of Hera. And so you have the central tile, which is going to be the dojo, surrounded by 6 different worlds, which each have their own unique deck of cards that have both hidden events and open world events, which most of the time the open world stuff is going to be different monsters that you're going to face. And the hidden events will sometimes be monsters, but most of the time will be these little different story events that you're going to have to make a test on somehow to gain different abilities or different things. And each world is going to contain 6 different areas, which will be important as the game goes on, as that will be determined where these different tiles will come out, as well as during the Dusk event, there will be cards that will be randomly dealt out to each world based on the world dice that you roll, which has the 6 different sides of the worlds, and the number on the dice will correspond to each world as well, in where the tokens will be placed. So as the game goes, the heroes, which will be miniatures in the game that you guys will receive, these are just part of the prototypes again, so all this stuff will get polished and look a lot better than this. So like I said, as the heroes go, they will take their turn and they will get to perform 3 actions, which will basically allow them to play 3 of their different cards or other items or things to basically move around the world and interact with different things, either completing some of the quests that come up or defeating monsters as they go about. And in the cooperative mode, the heroes are going to be working together and playing their different actions to assist each other in defeating some of these bigger monsters or ultimately defeating the overall boss. Now I'd like to take a closer look at the unique features of each character. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at Leif, which like I said is basically like an adult version of Groot. And so each player is going to have their own dashboard. It's going to list the character's health and spirit. It's also going to track their different energy in the 3 different areas. Each character is also going to have some sort of a tracking chart that's going to track whatever special ability they have. So with Leif, he has momentum, and as he gains momentum by spending his different cards and doing different actions, he will move that up the track. And if he ever maxes out, certain cards will give him benefits, and he will be able to spend some of the momentum during his turn as well to do different actions. Next, I'd like to go into the cards themselves. So each card is going to be broken down into 2 different levels. You have the top level, so when a player plays a card from their hand, they're going to activate the card and do the abilities that are listed on the top. When they activate a card from the board, they're going to activate the ability on the bottom of the card, which is completely different than the ability on the top. And these are just prototypes again, like I said, but the designers have talked about adding some of these features to the cards themselves. But as of right now, we have these handy reference cards that will help with explaining this. So when a player plays a card from their hands, again, like I said, they're going to resolve the top information on the card and then place it on this track here. And so this is going to be in the activated from hand section, and at the end of that player's turn, any cards that are in this section will move to on board cards, and then in later turns the players can activate these cards by playing the action that is listed on the bottom of the card. For each card that they do this to, it will be moved to the activated from board section. And at the end of their turn that they've done that, then this will go back to their hand. So the cards will have a cooldown period, but in that period they're going to be able to use the cards for different abilities, which is a pretty interesting way of doing it. Now, as the players do or gain different energy and they move up to the midpoint here, they're going to gain new additional cards from a select set of cards that they will not start the game with. And they'll simply add to their hands to make their character more powerful as the game goes on and they level up their abilities. I also want to go into detail about the corrupted, as each one of them functions very uniquely. So each corrupted is going to have a couple scenarios that are going to focus on them. And like I said before, the corrupted are basically the old champions that have been corrupted over time or manipulated or whatever to basically, instead of trying to save the worlds, they're trying to destroy them. So and each one works a little bit differently. So we have the first one, which is an Oki. And so he is going to focus more on corrupting the animals and adding spores to the players to reduce their damage unless they spend spirit. On top of that, each of the corrupted is going to use the world dice to determine what type of action they're going to take during their turn. And so in his scenario, Shadowed Worlds, the worlds are going to basically be crumbling around the players. So each time, or each dusk phase, you're going to add scenario tokens based on how many you roll. And if a world ever has scenario tokens on all 6 spaces, that world will be destroyed. And if 2 worlds are ever destroyed, the game is over. On the other side here, we have Ashara, who is going to focus more on destroying the dojo. So her goal is to move to the dojo, and every time that she does get there, you're going to add a Doom token. And if there's ever more Doom tokens than players, then that is going to be the loss condition for her. Now, each of the corrupted is also going to have a weakness that must be exposed in order to start doing damage to them, which is a unique aspect for the players. And so they're going to have to focus on exposing that weakness before they can really start attacking those corrupted. The last thing we're going to go into is the dojo, which is basically like the home base for the champions. And so at the beginning of the game, they're going to start in the center tile. And anytime the champions are defeated during the game, they will spawn back at that center point. So the players are never actually eliminated from the game. They will always come back. And now there are a couple conditions that if met, they may not spawn in the dojo. They may spawn out in one of the other worlds, but for the most part, the dojo is the home base. The dojo also counts as your round tracker, and it's going to be broken into 2 different sections. We have the dawn section and the dusk section for each day. And the game is played over 6 days most of the time. And during the dawn step, players are going to pass their order cards, spawn cards into the different worlds, and each player will get to take their turn. When they're done with that, then they would move to the dusk phase, which will again spawn cards from the dusk deck, and the players will get to take their turns again. And depending upon the mode of play that you're playing in between each player's turn, there may be a corruption turn as well, which again depends on the mode of play that you're playing, whether it's a versus mode, in which case then there will not be a corruption phase, or if you're playing a cooperative mode, which in that case then there will be a corruption phase, which is basically wherein the monsters and bad guys will activate. Well, I hope that gives you guys a good idea whether you want to back the game or not. These are just the basic features of the game, and like I said, I will be doing a basic play video to take you guys through some of the rounds of a game, and that will be coming out shortly. And as always, if you guys have any questions or comments, please leave those in the comment section below, and I'll do my best to answer them. Or swing by the creator's Kickstarter page and leave them there, and I'm sure he'll be more than happy to answer any questions you guys have as well. And if you enjoy what I do, if you like these videos, please consider hitting that like button and subscribing to my channel, as it does help me grow. And thanks so much for watching. I do appreciate you guys taking the time, and I will see you guys later.